The new Morse Block of Franklin, Massachusetts. This presentation is about the new Morse Block, which is seen in this picture on the left side of the street. The Morse Opera House block, which was covered in a previous presentation, is seen on the right side of the street. This picture was taken at some point after 1900 because that was the year that the streetcars came to Franklin. This is a recent Google Earth picture of the area of downtown Franklin where the new Morse Block was developed. This was taken from the 1879 drawing of Franklin. The area where the new Morse block would be constructed was an empty lot. The red arrow points to the home of Aaron Hartwell Morse, which was on the corner of Summer Street and Central Street. These are the buildings that will be discussed in this presentation: Corson's Market, McPherson Furniture, the large brick building, and the Sentinel Building. Corson's Market. According to the October 8, 1887 Franklin Sentinel, Aaron Hartwell Morse moved his gas house to the vacant lot opposite the Opera House. This building was moved to this location before the big brick building and the furniture building were constructed. They would be constructed the following year. As the article states, David W. Corson established a meat market in this building. This is from the 1889 Sanborn Fire Map. The arrow points to Corson's Market. Alpine Row would eventually be added where the red lines are shown. In later years, Corson's Market would be sold to Fremont M. Richardson. Back in the early 1880s, he was in partnership with James O. Chilson in his store in the Chilson Block on Main Street, as noted by the entry from the 1884 Franklin Business Directory. Eventually, Emerson would become partners with Mr. Richardson in the Chilson Block, as shown by the advertisement from 1893. In later years, Fremont M. Richardson would become the owner of Corson's Market on Central Street and would rename it Richardson's Market. This picture shows the market when it was owned by Fremont M. Richardson. The advertisement is from the 1909 Franklin Business Directory. Mr. Richardson would eventually sell this market to his son, Edgar S. Richardson. In July of 1930, Edgar S. Richardson would sell his market to Charles Quinn, who had been an employee of the market for many years. He would rename it Quinn's Market. In July of 1954, Charlie Quinn retired and sold the market to Jimmy O'Connell, who was one of his employees. He would rename the market O'Connell's Market. This picture was taken on the day that Charlie Quinn retired. Jimmy O'Connell is on the right. In the 1960s, the Woonsocket Call newspaper would establish a branch office in this building. Previously, the office was located on Depot Street. The town's newspaper carriers would get their newspapers for their paper routes in this office. The person that worked there for many years was Harold Dutchy Gilbert, who had been the local reporter for the Woonsocket Call for many years. In the 1970s, Fico's Shoe Store would relocate here from Depot Street. McPherson Furniture. According to these notices from the November 17, 1883 Franklin Sentinel, Robert L. McPherson opened a furniture and undertaking business in a building on Central Street that was opposite Cunningham Stable, which was on the corner of Central Street and Cottage Street. This was 7 years before the new Morse Block was constructed. This view was taken from the 1884 Sanborn fire map. The arrow points to the building where Robert L. McPherson first began doing business. Cottage Street can be seen in the lower part of the view. The word undertaker can be seen on the building, while the building across the street from it shows carriage house, which must have been the Cunningham stable that was previously mentioned. In 1890, Robert L. McPherson would move his furniture and undertaking business into this newly constructed building on the new Morse Block. That same year, Albert Farrington went into partnership with Robert L. McPherson, as noted in the June 6, 1890 Franklin Sentinel. In 1895, McPherson and Farrington expanded their business into the store in the brick building adjoining them. Mr. McPherson would continue to conduct the undertaking part of this business. According to this entry in the December 6, 1907 Franklin Sentinel, Leslie E. Wiggin, who worked in the Farrington Furniture Store, had recently passed his examination in Boston for embalming and had received his diploma. This advertisement is taken from the 1913 Franklin Business Directory, and the picture was taken from that advertisement. This notice appeared in the May 6, 1913 Franklin Sentinel. It shows that the Farrington Furniture Store was sold to Mr. Saltman of Boston. It also shows that Leslie S. Wiggin purchased the undertaking branch of the business. Leslie Wiggin would go on to establish his own funeral home, which became the Wiggin Funeral Home on the corner of East Street and West Central Street. This notice appeared in the December 13, 1913 Franklin Sentinel. It shows that the business was now being called Franklin Furniture. The large brick building. In May of 1890, construction began on the large brick building on the new Morse Block. According to the notice that appeared in the May 30th, 1890 Franklin Sentinel, the workmen were busy on the cellar wall of the new building. This picture was taken soon after the block was developed. Corson's Market can be seen to the immediate left of the large brick building, and McPherson's Furniture Store can be seen to the right. The arrow points to the building that was the previous location of Robert McPherson's furniture and undertaking business until he moved it to the new location. This notice appeared in the September 18, 1891 Franklin Sentinel. There was a large number of pupils in the low grammar department, and as a result, a school was established in the large brick building. This is from the 1894 Sanborn fire map. The furniture building and the large brick building had been constructed by this time. Alpine Row can be seen in the map. This notice appeared in the February 6, 1914 Franklin Sentinel. It shows that Franklin Furniture was now located at 2729 East Central Street. Mr. Saltman extended credit to his customers before it became fashionable. This advertisement appeared in the 1913 Franklin Business Directory. Wesley F. Dinsmore owned a hardware store at 23 East Central Street. This picture was taken around 1914. The arrow points to the sign for the Franklin Job Print Shop, which was located at 25 East Central Street. The manager, Herbert C. Stewart, can be seen in the rear of the truck. This is Herbert C. Stewart. For over 70 consecutive years, he marched in the Memorial Day Parade and played taps on his bugle at each cemetery during that time. The advertisement is from the January 2nd, 1914 Franklin Sentinel. The sign for Quaker Ranges is shown over the store at 27 East Central Street, which was the store to the far right in the large brick building. According to this advertisement from the January 2nd, 1920 Franklin Sentinel, Eben A. Walton's hardware store was located at 23 East Central Street. According to the notice in the November 9th, 1922 Franklin Sentinel, Union Light and Power would take over the Eben Walton store. In later years, Freddie Saltman would expand his business into all of the stores in the brick building. In the early 2000s, the buildings on the new Morse Block, except the Sentinel building, were demolished. This view was taken from Summer Street looking toward Alpine Row. And this is what the block looks like today. The Sentinel building. The Sentinel building is the middle building that is shown in this picture. In June of 1911, the trustees of the Morse estate began construction on this building. It is 35 by 60 feet. In September of 1914, a 30 by 25-foot addition was added to the building to give the Sherman Laundry more room. This was taken from the 1884 Sanborn fire map, and it shows the block before it was developed. This view was taken from the 1888 drawing of Franklin. Building number 38 was David W. Corson's Market. Building number 61 was the William H. Spear and Son Steam Laundry. In later years, it would be known as Waterman's Laundry. The building that is numbered 63, which is the one in the picture that is shown with the flag, was where the W. H. Spear and Son Fish and Oyster Store was located, and the Edward E. King Barber Shop was also located there. Albert L. Jordan made and repaired boots and shoes in the small store which was next to it, and would eventually become Cataldo's fruit stand. The arrow points to the building where Robert L. McPherson first started doing business as an undertaker. It stood between the Waterman's Laundry building and Corson's Market. This building would be demolished and replaced by the Sentinel building in 1911. This is taken from the 1889 Sanborn fire map. The arrow points to the building where Robert L. McPherson first did business as an undertaker. The W. H. Spear and Son Laundry building has been erected by this time, and was directly to the left of the McPherson building. This advertisement appeared in the August 13th, 1936 Franklin Sentinel. Franklin Buick Company did business in there at that time. This notice appeared in the May 2nd, 1940 Franklin Sentinel. The Sentinel Press had moved from its previous location on Depot Street to its new location at 1517 East Central Street. In December of 1941, Albert Ralston, the editor of the Franklin Sentinel, retired. He is seen here in the doorway on the day of his retirement. This entry is from the September 3rd, 1953 Franklin Sentinel. The Sentinel bought the Sentinel building from the Morse estate. This picture is from the early 1960s. Rizzoli's Pharmacy and the Sentinel Press were located here at that time. And this concludes our presentation on the new Morse block. Thanks for watching.